has lived and experienced African agriculture, one who has participated as an expert in developing solutions for African agriculture, and one who has championed and led transformation in the agricultural ecosystem in Africa. And all that in one person, and that is Dr. Nteranya Sanginga, the Director General of the International Institute of Tropical Agriculture. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you, Charity. After the declaration of Malabo, few African leaders, I think probably not more than 10, trying to improve the budgetary allocation to agriculture to reach the 10%. But after that, so it was quite abandoned, and it was just like a slogan. And I just finished interacting with, again, the government of DRC. And in my conversation with the president, actually, this was a topic where I asked them the same questions that you are asking me. And then we went into making a comparison between the budget of the different sectors. And agriculture, basically, percentage of the budget was only 3%. And I have to say, 3% was probably higher than the first regime. And you can see that we are not there. But still, the president thinks that his legacy is going to be agriculture. So I am very much convinced that we will never reach that with the public sector, and that's why I convinced the president that agriculture has to be privatized. And a good example in DRC, you know, we have a lot of minerals. People come and invest in minerals, and the government give all the permission. And I was telling the president that, well, for the moment, you know, especially in the future, agriculture and especially agriculture transformation is going to be probably the only source of funding, just like the way we found out in Nigeria. So please have a policy which will allow the private sector to come in. And basically 1 month ago, he tasked me of proposing a solution to that. And the solution I really proposed was to change the code of agricultural investment in DRC. And in matter of weeks, actually, it went to the Senate. And I think in September, it's going to be discussed in the General Assembly. And that code allows basically people to come and invest in agriculture the way they are investing in mineral. And my conviction is once the private sector will start coming in and see benefits, that's the only way you can increase agricultural productivity in DRC. Since I'm in Kenya here, let me give you an example of now in DRC, Equity Bank has made a large investment there. And the last one we discussed, he's really trying to bring some business people from Kenya here to go and invest in maize, because DRC has probably the last frontier of savanna, where maize is probably the most important commodity, and soybean. So during my time here, talking with the business people, after tomorrow, those who want to go and invest in DRC. And so basically, for your question, Malabo, yes, but for me, it's the private sector that's going to elevate agriculture and not the public sector.
That's interesting. It looks like soon DRC will be feeding a lot of African nations. I think it has that potential. And I'm curious to know what has been the reception of Kenyan private sector in terms of investment in DRC? How is that reception? How is it working?
Oh, well, I mean, it's really working very well. I have to tell you that when I was in the hotel in Kinshasa, most of the time people speak Lingala, which is, but you hear a lot of Swahili now. And when you close, you know, these people are coming from Nairobi. So I met a group of people coming from Kitale as well there, and they're trying to go and basically find opportunity there, and especially in agriculture. And you will have to realize that the two presidents have very good relations, and those relations do not stop on investment in banking and so on. It goes quite a lot in agriculture as well.
Now, I know we have, sort of seen the shortfalls of the public sector driving agricultural transformation. But can we say that leadership in agriculture, even if it is from private sector, has there issues? Is it all, good? Or are you challenges within the leadership, even in private sector? Are there aspects that can be changed?
Charity, I have to tell you that I'm finishing my term as a DG, and 2 years ago or 3 years ago, I've been thinking about what I'm going to do after retirement. And you have identified a problem that I've identified 3 years ago. So I've decided to create an institute of agricultural leadership in Africa. It's called Ali. And I've registered it in DRC and Nigeria as an international institute. Why is that? It's exactly the same question. It's a simple observation. In my trip across the continent, we arrive sometime, I speak to Minister of Agriculture. Sometimes we find there are lawyers, accountants, politicians. They don't know anything about agriculture because of them. Then you have the head of state. Most of the time they proclaim that agriculture is the priority of priority. But as you said rightly, there's no investment in it. And so then you go to the private sector. I think those who are in agriculture business and transformation, they do very well because they know that's where the profit is. But you lack to attract more of the private sector as well. Another element which is really very important is the age of our farmers here in the continent. Because the average age is around 60 probably, and with probably no education of modern agriculture. And then we have a new generation of young people who are not interested in agriculture. And then we're trying to make sure that that generation, which is going to feed Africa, basically understand that agriculture is a business. So in taking all this together, I decided that probably that institute will have as a mission to start changing the mindset of the people, from the young people to that leadership, even the president, about agriculture. So this institute is going to be inaugurated next year in February. And I have convinced President Obasanjo, President Tshisekedi, to be the patron of it, and the president of African Development Bank to be one of the active people in the board in such a way that we will just have an academy of changing the manship of the leadership, probably in creating, and especially identifying those young people who have that potential to be the minister or the politician, with very strong belief that agriculture will make a difference in Africa.
That's a fantastic idea. So are you focusing on nurturing the leadership aspects? Is it open to anybody? I'm sure the audience would want to know who's a potential candidate to be in that leadership organization.
So it will have different basically strategy. The first one would be to identify the young people who have the potential sorry, of changing the mindset and be the leader of tomorrow in agriculture. I've tried that when I created the program of Agripreneur, and you can see quite clearly those young people exist. And you have to, sorry. The second level is really to take all the leadership in government, those in charge of agriculture, and starting even training them and making sure that there's the right policies and so on. And the last level was Minister of Finances and the President of the countries.
So let's shift focus and talk about the International Institute of Tropical Agriculture, the organization that you're currently steering. Now, it is indeed the premier institution for research and innovation in the continent. And a lot has happened. Good things can be talked about the institutions. But in your own way of summarizing the achievements of IITA, for the last 55 years that it has been on board, what can you say have been the key achievements for the organizations?
Yeah, well, let me start with the major one, was about cassava. And cassava in the 80s was going to disappear because of a disease called mealybug. And that started from Zanzibar, and it was basically sweeping all cassava to the West Africa coast. It was just like what you have today about COVID, if you want to call that, that's the COVID for cassava. And really, I could not imagine, for example, cassava disappearing in this continent, and especially for some countries like Nigeria or DRC, where people depend purely on cassava. So IITA basically found a solution, a biological solution against mealybug, and 80 cassava was basically saved from the continent. And when you do a cost and benefits analysis of that research, was of $1 invested and produced a benefit of $20 in terms of research. In fact, that's the research most of the international organizations in the world, I'll say, consider that successful stories. I'll give two other examples where IITA has been able to maize in West Africa could never go beyond the derived savanna, but today as maize has gone past the derived savanna until basically it's limit with Sahel because of the varieties which were being produced by IITA. And the last discovery we work on is the aflasef. Aflasef basically the fight against the aflatoxin in groundnuts and maize has been a major breakthrough from IITA. That has been important But more than that, that's the technologies as well, the knowledge that IITA has generated, and building the capacity of the scientists has been without comparison. I'm a student of IITA, so I yes, did my PhD there, and you find everywhere where you go here in Africa, or you find as alumni of IITA, and so is a very strong institution, and it will continue to be such for maybe for the next coming 50 years, I would say.
Yeah, I've also benefited a lot. You know, my competencies were honed in that institutions, of course, under your leadership. So, and some of these achievements have been recognized through awards like the Africa Food Prize Award, which IITA, I believe, won in 2018. How was that for you? How was that? How was that experience?
Yeah, that was exciting, I would say. And as you said yourself, is the contribution that you've made and your team, and the lot of scientists was recognized by that prize, because if I remember correctly, the last prize IITA had was in 1974, and that was the King Baudouin Award on banana. So after so many years, basically getting that award in 2018, after 7 years of my leadership, was recognizing the kind of effort that we all had put in IITA. And I would say during that period, the 7 years, we had changed somehow the orientation of IITA as well, because so IITA was known for classical research, done just like the research we were doing on aflatoxin. It was good research. We could publish papers. We could do small pilot experiments here and there, and you reach probably 1,000 of people or 10,000 of people. Then my question was, so you reach 10,000, so what? You don't solve the big issue of millions of people, and especially in Kenya, in Ukambani, where people were dying because of aflatoxin and so on. So what we did in IITA was basically to say, can we scale some of these technologies, a good example, BiafraSafe, to reach millions of people and solve that. And that's the time we created the Department of Delivery, Research Delivery, which was not traditional. It was not common in other research centers the way we knew them. And because of that program, basically we were able to impact more farmers, more institutions, and I presume that was recognized by AGRA, and that was probably the reason why we got that award.
Now, do you see the importance of working with NARIs, for example? Is that something that international research organizations should be focusing on? Because the CG centers, IITA and others, have a wider mandate. But that mandate is to fulfill the country mandates and uplift the agricultural sector of specific countries that have sometimes unique needs, sometimes they're cross-cutting. But how much relevance or how much importance should institutions like IITA, how much importance should they put in terms of their relationships with the national agricultural research institutions in Africa?
we cannot do without working with national research institution. But as an African, I want to take it in a reverse way, because there is a danger of neglecting our institution, if national institution. If we have to be looking for one way or of working with international institution, easily you have a complex of thinking that this international organization will do some of the things we as the National Research Center can do. I give most of them examples here, Kenya here, where we have all the capacity in terms of human resources, and with the same education as the people working in an international organization. Or some of the facilities that the National Research Institution have here in Kenya, sometimes you don't find those in international organization. So I've been thinking most of the time that this CG, the Center International Center, should join force with a strong institution like Caro here, and go and help people like in DRC where you don't have that capacity. I see this kind of relationship between strong national program and international organization here working hand in hand in terms of research discovery, research delivery, and especially capacity building of some of the national programs which are quite weak, and especially in Francophone country. So that's how I see the relation. But more and more as well, you don't want to stop at just national program, because working with the private sector is going to be, as I keep saying, that is going to help really push agriculture development in Africa more than, again, having everything being funded by the public sector.
Okay, and you know, IITA has also taken a unique approach and has added very unique aspects into its portfolio: commercialization, business incubation platform. You have mentioned about the agripreneurship program, and which are unique, I must say. And what informed the thinking of IITA to take this approach, and how is that working so far?
Yeah, so I have to tell you that if there is something I brought into IITA was that thinking, coming from the point of view that research for research's sake and the paper was not making an impact here in Africa, that one. And secondly, when I introduce that notion of scaling, commercializing the technologies and so on, the board of trustees of IITA were against that. And for almost 2 or 3 years, because I was just seeing as an African, if we don't do that, we will never develop agriculture the way we want it to be. So while I was introducing that program, I had a trip with my board chair to Canada, to Saskatoon. That's the university. And basically what I saw there is that was all business incubation around the Faculty of Agriculture. So that was being done in Canada and in Europe, but the same people were saying, no, we don't have the mandate to do that. So I started basically with the product you worked on, the AflaSafe. As I told you, what in 2011, your team, Ranajit, and yourself for doing. It was very good research with those products. So you see them in a lab, in a pilot, and I was saying, if we need to take this to millions of the people, so especially in Nigeria, because groundnut pyramid disappeared because of aflatoxin. So in September 2011, Bill Gates and his team came to visit us, and we took them to Kano. And the same question I was asking myself and I was asking the scientists and the board were asked to me by Bill Gates. Exactly the same questions. Well, Dr. Sanginga, it's a DG. You're doing good research here, but you are reaching only 500 people and so on. So he's telling me, if you want me to fund you, show me how you can reach millions of the people and so on. Just giving you 2 weeks to send a proposal to me about this question. And that was comforting because I thought I was chosen as a DG because that's what I presented to the board of IITA during that period. So it was not difficult for me to just send the proposal I made to the board of IITA during selection. And yes, a week later, got a letter, a personal letter from Bill Gates. And he said, well, this is exactly what I want you to do. And I remember as Gates senior officer was Prem Warrior. He made a trip to Ibadan. And he gave us a grant of 10 million, and that's what started all your work of AflaSafe. So we started commercializing it. And I have to tell you that during that period when we built the factory, and it was a Kenyan, Kaptoge, that I recruited as well to come and build that factory. In 2013, 2014, Kenya was basically airlifting AflaSafe from Nigeria to Kenya here to come and solve, and they were paying cash. Yeah, they were paying cash. So, and basically that's what actually pushed us to go to Katumani, where now we, the same people build the AflaSafe factory. You have that. And now I have to tell you, there are 24 almost of those factories being built. The last, we're going to inaugurate it in DRC in a few weeks to come. So really, that commercialization philosophy had helped scale all this technology. And then it doesn't stop there. We've created business incubation for seed. It's called Go Seed. We have one for inoculum for soybean called Nodumax. And then we have extended that to the young graduate, which we call agripreneur, who are basically making some startup. And some of those young people are now exporting some products from here to US and so on. Yeah.